our good friend Colleen Wright from the Tampa Bay Times. And hello, friend. How are you? Happy Monday.
Hi, Jay. Happy Monday.
I like the jacket. Are you wearing? Is that your green today, or is that gray? I don't know. Is that St. Patrick's Day? Oh, that's green. Okay. All right. I told everybody I wasn't going to show anybody my shoes, but now I guess I'll have to because it is St. Patrick's Day. So there you go. To everybody checking him out. David Terry, one of our viewers, wanted to see him. So in honor of St. Patrick's Day and our friend Colleen Wright joining us on the program. And, it's so funny. Remember when we spoke like you remember when we had this conversation when I was on the radio station about 6 months ago about the Rays Stadium? And then it's March 17th. Look at where we are right now. How crazy has this thing been?
It's been a ride. And you almost want to play out all the scenarios, right? Like, what if there weren't two hurricanes? What if, everything had gone forward and we got two hurricanes this year? What would have happened? And like, it's really quick and easy to go through to play the what if game. But yeah, here we are, March, very different. It's almost like the past 3 years didn't happen.
Right? I mean, I was on air at the time and we went on air early. Everybody, the celebration. Oh yeah, we're here to stay. Mm-hmm. And then now we're at the point where the Rays had $700 million from the city and the county, all of these different things. And then and think about March 31st. You told me you brought up the date March 31st, I think last year. You were like, Jay, March 31st. We didn't even get there. And Stu makes this announcement. What was your initial reaction when you saw that social media post from the Rays?
Well, I knew before then. I had overheard at City Council, Thursday is City Council Day. And so I'm always there on Thursdays. Mm-hmm. I overheard someone very high up talk to someone else very high up. And I heard Stu called Ken and said they're done. And I was like, what was that? And they confirmed to me. So actually, we had a story going before that post it was just a difference of a matter of minutes.
Right.
But, yeah, I had heard, Stu Sternberg called the mayor and it's over. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need to do something now. And, kind of have to get the gears in motion and whatever. And then we knew that statement was coming. They folded that. Yeah, it's that announcement went out before most city council members knew. It was kind of a shock. I mean, the mayor barely got a heads up.
I feel like that's one of the big things. You and I have spoken about this a lot when it comes to Ken Welch. Like and I'm at Emily, so that's the horn in the background. Ken Welch, you and I have spoken about this, that this is always going to be tied to his legacy as the mayor of St. Pete. To hear him the other day say that the bridges are burned, mm-hmm. like that, if that isn't like a microcosm of where we are right now, I don't know if you could find a greater example of a guy that was part of the face of this deal now being absolutely disgusted with Stu Sternberg and the Rays.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I'm actually, kind of doing some reporting on this right now, but you can kind of look at it as either he gave it his best at bat, like he calls it the last at bat. Mm-hmm. Ken Welch described the deal that he brokered. It's really his deal. Yes, it has county money, but it was his request for proposals that got the Rays to apply. And this is really kind of his idea. And he called it an unprecedented amount of public funding. I had never heard him describe the deal like that in the past 3 years, basically, or 2.5, however you want to put it. And now for him to call it that and then say the Rays didn't live up to their promises is quite shocking. And you can maybe say, maybe he did his best and it's on Stu for not going through. And, that's not really Ken's fault that, Mayor Welch's fault that it fell through. Or you can almost look at it and say, like, well, of course, why would it be any different?
Mm-hmm.
He's the mayor to work with the Rays. Getting into local politics, not a whole lot has really happened in St. Pete. A lot of projects have been on the because of this deal, right. Because it requires so much staff time. Money alone, I think as of like last July, the city just on consultants and studies and lawyers spent like $2.5 million, and that's not the county spent. That's not counting hours of workers that went into this. So all in, I think it's reasonable to say that on the low side, it's probably like $5 million at this point, into something that, or the fruits of it at least, will be still years off. So it's interesting how this will play out. And Ken Welch is up for re-election next year. It remains to be seen whether this will reflect poorly on him or not.
And also, remember when he was going to give all those bonuses to people? And then he reversed course because everybody was like, what is this? So regardless of whether that happened or not, like that happened because of this. Like he was trying to, whether some people think it's underhanded or not. I'm not talking about that when it comes to whether it was genuine or not. Mm-hmm. But it happened. Like it happened. Like in his mind, like he was trying to reward people for the work that they did on this deal, and now we don't even have a deal. Is there any way in your mind that the Rays, I don't want to say the Rays, is there any way that Stu Sternberg can get a stadium deal done?
I mean, I'm not a public official. I think everybody may be willing to do something, but I would say right now, I heard Matt Silverman go on WDAE and say, we're working to rebuild trust. I spoke with some elected officials who on the record were telling me, like, no. Like, as far as I'm concerned, there is no negotiations. There's this recent push of like, well, maybe we can renovate the Trop for $400 million and, extend our time at Tropicana Field through 2038. No. Like, I don't think the appetite's there for that. Nobody really wants to deal with them. Now, could it be repaired? Maybe, but I don't.
Were these people that were in favor of the deal?
Oh yeah.
So so the people that were in favor of the Rays deal.
Yeah.
Now heard what Matt said, and obviously lived through this entire experience, and now they don't want any part of this ownership group.
Oh yeah. In fact, here I will actually.
I love it.
I'll read you the quote. This is on the record. This is from
okay.
Who's a city council member whose district is downtown St. Petersburg and includes Tropicana Field.
So this is, I'm sorry, the name again?
Her name is Gina Driscoll.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. She says her quote was, "We're not in negotiations right now. The way I see it, what happens in the future doesn't concern them." Meaning Stu Sternberg. This is someone who, again, voted in favor and whose district includes Tropicana.
Does the city council or the county commissioners, do they hold Matt Silverman or Brian Auld at fault for any of this stuff, or do they just look at them as mouthpieces for Stu?
Maybe both.
Yeah.
Maybe both. I mean, I think, and again, this is just what I've gathered.
Right. Yeah.
Just kind of, but from what I gathered, I think they look at them as like, yeah, like they're employees of Stu Sternberg and they're just doing what their boss tells them to do, as anybody, as I do for the paper or anything. But I think there have been some moments where they think like things could have been communicated a little better or not. But I think mostly like they see them as employees.
And now let me ask you this question, because I said this the other day on the show, and I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think Stu's the person that should have done that interview with T. Kraz on WDAE instead of Matt Silverman? Do you think that, and whether you believe it or not, I just feel it's one thing if the Rays put out, and the reason why I ask you this is because the Rays put out this social media post. And if you just put out that social media post and you don't sign it, you understand that it's coming from the organization as a whole. But Stu put his name on it. Stu put his name on that thing, that it was, hey, this is not just coming from everybody. I'm taking ownership of this statement. And then Matt Silverman's the one that did the interview with T. Kraz. And it didn't really reconcile with me, because I felt like if there was anybody that was supposed to talk that day, it probably should have been Stu. Am I expecting too much from Mr. Sternberg, or do you kind of see where I'm coming from in that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really have an opinion on that, Mm-hmm. To me, it's kind of all the same.
Right. Well, okay.
But I can't really have an opinion.
What do you, as far as the next step goes in this entire situation? We now know that there's a couple of groups out there that are invested in buying the team. How realistic do you think that's going to be, that Stu turns around and either sells it to one of these two groups?
I think it's possible. I mean, I think if he gets the money that he's looking for, I mean, Stu repeatedly said this team's not for sale. Matt Silverman said the team is not for sale. But maybe if someone makes the right price, maybe. I don't know if public sentiment would get so bad that they would want to sell the team. I'm not sure, but I did speak with an attorney, Bob Boland, Robert Boland. He's a New York-based attorney who's actually represented clients who have made runs at buying professional sports teams, such as like the Buffalo Bills. I mean, big professional sports, huge acquisition deals. And he told me, and I'm paraphrasing, but he was pretty much like, the people who are really serious about buying teams are not talking to the media. They're talking to a handful of bankers in New York and maybe some people at the league. So, and these deals kind of happen. So it's possible that it could be people who have raised their hand and said, I want to buy the team. Or maybe it's none of them and it's someone else. Maybe the money is right. Not sure. I mean, the Rays do have a home at the Trop until 2028. At least then, the Trop is fixed on time by that is scheduled for March 27th for the roof repair. But the city council kind of, because they're under agreement to have like a board to do that. So there isn't any super immediate pressure to do anything because really they're still locked into an agreement through 2028. And while that seems very soon, who knows what can happen between now and then? I mean, look what happened between October and now. So it's wide open. The possibilities are wide open.
What do you think is well, I want to go back to that Silverman interview. Was there anything that stood out to you from that interview on WDAE with Matt Silverman that either surprised you or maybe was different than what you were hearing?
Not immediately. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to rack my, I listened to that interview, but there was so much going on. My phone was blowing up.
Yeah.
I can't immediately say. I know that I should be able to answer this question.
No, it's okay.
I can't immediately recall anything.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about just some of the things with the hurricanes and, talking about that date in October. And when people ask you, why didn't this deal get done, Colleen, when it's all said and done, what is it going to be? What is it going to come down to? And people, I always bring up the fact that they thought that there was going to be so many, because of the delay, it was going to, all right, this pushback of, 49 days, right? This is going to cost how much? And the Rays were never able to kind of show proof of how much it was going to cost. Do you think that was the ultimate death knell out of this entire thing? Or just like when people ask you why it didn't work, even just in your personal life, because I feel like I answer this question every day. When people say, hey, Colleen, in the short form way, why didn't this deal get done?
Well, the team also kind of changed their answer too. Not only did they say, oh, we have costs we can't afford anymore, although you're right, they never justified it, approved on paper. I mean, Ken Welch was like, I never saw a napkin breakdown of like what happened. But then later on, Matt Silver and Brian Auld, when they did that like scripted show, to kind of kick off like right before FanFest.
Yeah, countdown opening day.
Yeah, they said, actually, we have the money. We just don't think it's a good investment anymore. Okay, that's very different than saying you don't have the money. Saying you do have the money and don't want to spend it is different. And I feel like the best way to maybe explain it is kind of like buying a house. Like if you or me, if anybody was just kind of like your average Joe was kind of buying a house and there's maybe just like one too many things about the house, like the roof is old and it's got termites and whatever. And like maybe you realize like your expenses add up and maybe you have the money, but you don't have all the money and you just don't want to take that dive. I think Matt Silverman did mention a few times insurance. And that was something in the deal where right now the city has the insurance on the Tropicana Field. But in exchange in the new deal for the city not getting a cut of name sponsorship rights or revenues or ticket sales or concessions or anything of that, the city would get no cut of any of those revenues, but all the insurance and all the liability would transfer to the Rays. So maybe some of that, like, we know that there's an insurance crisis, right? Maybe it was a little too much, but it may be one or two of the same either they don't have the money or maybe they were short some and didn't want to kind of bridge. You know, you also in the background of it, it's in St. Pete and not Tampa, right? You know, you're only willing to pay so much getting
Right.
one or any of those, but you wanted a simple answer. So the simple answer is they got cold feet, right? I think John Romano put it pretty succinctly. Is like they got cold feet, whether they wanted to pay for it or not, whether they could pay for it or not, they got cold feet.
So, and just for those maybe that are just joining us, what's next now, right? Because people, this is kind of the saga that's is like as the world turns, days of our lives. This is every single soap opera all wrapped into one with this entire situation. So, other than just saying, well, waiting for Stu to sell, but I guess the trop repairs, like what when it comes to that aspect of it, of like the team and their involvement with the city council or county commissions, and like what's kind of the next step in this entire thing? Because as you alluded to before, I don't see the city going, yeah, let's put 300 million into, you know, having the trop till 2038. That ain't happening.
Yeah, no, and you know, just on that point too, the mayor, you know, kind of pitched this whole deal as like it's the historic gas plant. It's right. You know, kind of like righting the wrongs of what happened to the Black neighborhood that existed in that area, and then was raised. And instead of rebuilding, they said actually this is going to be the home of Tropicana Field. So, and he said that he wants to start that development now, and they can on certain parcels of land. So any plans of the race probably couldn't infringe on that because they want to get that going. But what happens next? I would say the trop repairs. I mean, I think it's expected to pass because of like that, you know, legal obligation to do that and to provide the raise with a venue, and that'll happen March 27th. However, it'll be interesting how they go about it, what goes into it. Is it on time? You know, the city still thinks it can be, that it could be ready by opening day of 2026. Who knows? You know, I mean, I don't know, you know, supply chain, you know, the roof kind of is manufactured from Europe. So it's intricate. It's like not a simple process to put the trop back together. So I think it'll be interesting what happens with the trop and if it will be fixed on time. And then of course what happens beyond 2028.
Yeah, I think it was kind of interesting when Matt Silverman went on the radio and he was like, yeah, we're just hoping that like when the season starts, people will get a little calmer. And I'm like, yeah, because now we have some baseball to talk about instead of what's going on with this whole stadium issue. I just thought it was kind of a weird approach to this whole thing of like, well, when you're not top of mind, you won't be as angry. It's like, I don't know if that's great. Like it doesn't solve any of the problems, just hoping that people get distracted, right?
Yeah. And you know, one thing I also want to point out is like, you know, Mayor Welch said there's been a lot of like metaphors of a relationship for better or for worse, right? Mm-hmm. They were engaged, right? When they struck a deal, when they said they were here to stay in September 2023. But he kind of said something like, it's better that we get out now than before. What if there were shovels in the ground and then 2 hurricanes came and okay, now you really can't do it, you know? I don't know. Maybe that would have been a worse scenario, or maybe it would have been fine. And that's kind of how I started this interview, right? Which is kind of like, it's the what if scenario. But at this point, yeah, I mean, rebuilding public trust, I don't know. I mean, even Ken Hagan's out here saying like, I'm not working with this ownership group. I don't know where you go from there. I don't.
So the trust, you could say that the trust between Stu, the Rays, and I mean, it's with the city council and the county commissioners, right? So the public trust with Stu and everybody seems to just be completely done. I don't know how you can think, not you, but like, I don't know how Matt could say at the end of that interview, like we still believe a deal can get done, because nobody wants to operate. Nobody wants to deal with this guy and his team in good faith. I don't see how they get a new stadium deal done, whether it's on the Hillsborough or the Pinellas side.
No. And I mean, you never know. You never know, like, who's going to buy it. You know, you never know who's going to get elected in the office.
Right.
You never know who comes up with what. And so that's why it's kind of hard to say, because you don't know what X is, right? You're solving for X. I don't know what X is. But yeah, I mean, I will say, like, things are really bad. And yeah, I think I've written, like, you know, communication has gotten bad or worse. Because as we know, every public statement, every outcome, this is kind of playing out in public. Before it was so nice and almost romantic for a while. It was like a love fest between, you know, St. Pete Pinellas and the Rays. And that's just like long gone and doesn't seem to get better. It seems like the Rays called certain public officials and didn't call others. I don't know. I can't, I don't know. I don't know why they chose certain people and didn't choose others. I have no idea.
Well, this saga has just been wild and crazy, and there's so many twists and turns and ups and downs and a lot of lack of trust and miscommunication and no communication between a lot of different parties. But the one person that we could always rely on for the truth and for the up-to-date information is the one and only Colleen Wright from the Tampa Bay Times. My friend, you've done an incredible job covering this whole story. I know there's a lot of long hours, a lot of city council meetings, a lot of overhearing certain conversations. You have been absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for your time, not just today, but every single time that I asked you to come on the show. You're always so gracious with your time and your information. So thank you so much. And we'll be in touch. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Aaron, go bra.
Aaron, go bra, baby, go. Happy. Oh, yeah, before I let you go, I want to let everybody know, and I mention this every time we have Ed and Sinon or Stroud or Topkin, John Romano, make sure you support local. Subscribe to the Tampa Bay Times, especially in times like this when you really want to hear the latest news and up-to-date information. There's a lot of different avenues that you can put your resources into, and I say it here on the Recher podcast because we are focused on Tampa first and foremost. We work from the inside out. But our friends at the Tampa Bay Times, you don't know how important those subscriptions are, whether it's the e-letter that you can get online or just the actual hard copy. Our buddy Joey Knight's doing such a phenomenal job with March Madness right now. But these are the type of scenarios that we really are grateful for our people that are in our local journalists. So please, 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 TampaBay.com. Go subscribe today. It may not mean, it may not affect you so much in your bank account, but you and 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 other people get a subscription for somebody for their birthday or their holiday or Valentine's Day. That's probably not the greatest gift to get them, but just something a little different. Support our local journalists because trust me, it goes a long way. And me doing my own thing, I know every single time somebody subscribes or does something, like, it means the world. And I know it does to Colleen and everybody at the time. So wanted to say that while you were here, my friend. Continued success. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Jay. Take care.
Take care.